What's going on, Supply Chain TV? This is Andrew Johnson coming to you live from my office for another episode of From the Front Lines. Today, to get you out on the front lines, we're going to talk to somebody who is very much on the front lines of a high-tech region of the supply chain world, and that is the RFID space. RFID technology has been around a long time. Of course, you know at Shelf-Aware, if you followed us at all, that we use RFID technology in our sensors, on our smart labels, to track consumption of inventory on site and run remote inventories for B2B customers. But today we're going to take more of a broad look at how RFID can impact the supply chain space, how it can help us get out of some of these jams that COVID has put us in. So please join me for a rather long episode. Try and keep them short, but this one, you put Sanders and I in the room together and we just keep talking. So this one's pretty long. Hang in there, about 10, 15, 20 minutes. And you will know everything you want to know about the RFID space, what's new, what's hot, what's cutting edge, and where it can help us on the front lines of supply chain. So let's jump right in. Sanders, thanks so much for joining us today on the front lines of supply chain. Really looking forward to hearing more about your perspective on RFID and all things high tech. But first, for our viewers, let's go ahead and jump in with a little bit about yourself, personal background, and then a little bit about Starport Industries and what you guys do there.
Okay, so I'm Sanders Roth. I'm the Vice President of Business Development at Starport Technologies. We are located in Kansas City, Missouri. We are an RFID label and tag converter. My background is aviation. I got into wireless communication through that and then slowly transitioned to Starport. I've been here for about 10 years. Starport's 13 years old, and passive RFID converting is a relatively new industry, but it's certainly seeing some good growth.
All right, cool. All right. We're going to learn a little bit more about passive RFID, so don't be too alarmed if you don't know the terms yet, but we'll explain a little bit that later. First question, though, I wanted to jump right in. How is in your perspective, the RFID industry poised to offer transparency and visibility? Those are two huge buzzwords in the supply chain space right now. How can they offer transparency and visibility to supply chain? Or in other words, what has improved in the RFID space to now fill this void?
Okay, well, I'll tackle that in two different ways. Visibility is more along business-to-business transactions, moving inventory through a supply chain, whereas transparency would be something more related to the shareholders of the company, along with asset value, inventory values, things like that internally. So in terms of the supply chain visibility, RFID is really where you start getting a benefit. That's basically due to the fact that passive RFID is a replacement of a barcode scan. So as things transition from one business to another business, or perhaps even location to location within a business, you're starting to automatically capture item level information, which is something that you didn't have before, without unboxing and scanning each individual barcode. And also UPC barcodes generally only mean that it's one thing. For instance, a medium shirt. With RFID, you get that real granular information about this is one of 10,000 gray shirt mediums. And that's just a retail side of it. You can also say, this flange is this specific size, as opposed to just being from this company and this order, and you have to go through and separate everything. So you really get that granular, quick, automatic data capture that goes into the cloud and can be viewed real time by numerous stakeholders, shareholders, businesses, partners, companies that you're working with, et cetera.
Right. So in real layman's terms, RFID, it's a non-visual barcode, meaning barcodes are visual. You have to actually see the barcode, scan the barcode, gun's got to be looking at it, little laser's got to go over it. RFID, you could have thousands of items in a big crate. Run them past a scanner, non-visual, whole crate gets scanned, and you get granular detail on all 1,000 items. Is that fair?
That's correct. That's correct.
Cool.
Massive data capture in a small amount of time. So you can capture the 10,000 RFID labels or tags within a matter of seconds, as opposed to some individual hand scanning each individual barcode.
I got you. And earlier we talked a little bit about, you mentioned passive RFID. I've known about RFID for years and years and years now. I've been paying attention. It's been creeping into different aspects of my life. I remember those little tags in the retail department, like at Walmart or something, was just a teeny tiny white rectangular tag that was on a product. If you walk out without getting that tag scanned at the cash register, this whole siren thing would go off and nobody ever paid attention to it. People walked out anyway. But that was kind of my first like big scale, whoa, this is all cool, like proximity based. But why has it taken so long for RFID to get to where it's at today? It seems like it's 30 years in the making.
Well, actually, it's a lot more than that. Radio frequency was first used to identify whether an aircraft was a friend or foe during World War II, so you didn't shoot down your friendlies. Through that, radio frequencies became used for a lot of different things, and the FCC dictates specific radio band frequencies to use for certain applications, so there's not a whole bunch of noise or interference throughout what you're trying to do. Passive RFID refers to no battery. It refers to it's collecting its energy from the environment, generally a scanner. So if you're driving through a toll road, you'll see all these scanners up above you. That is consistently shooting energy at you. And when these passive tags get in close enough proximity to these energy transmitters, it'll power up a circuit and send a pulse back. So passive RFID technology isn't going to be working across miles or, continents or countries. It's really going to be in a confined space, such as a warehouse or something similar to that.
Passive just means no battery source, but the tag, then the upside is it can last forever.
Correct. As long as that tag, as long as the metal retains its magnetic properties, which, it's going to be a very long time, the tag will work forever unless it's damaged. And again, RFID is a very broad term. So when we're talking about supply chain management, again, you really need to make sure that you're aware of, FCC guidelines, what your operating environment is, how long you're going to be needing to read these objects away, how many dog doors you need, and all that stuff to make sure that RFID, you understand what you're getting into with RFID.
Right. And then I think in everyday life, people take for granted all the RFID, which is a very general term that we interact with. I mean, I mentioned the store security things, but then you also have Bluetooth. I mean, explain how that works. These are all versions of RFID, correct?
Right. So I'll go back to the thing that you mentioned on some CD cases. A lot of theft detection was RFID. It operated on 8.2 megahertz, and what they called is EAS, electronic article surveillance. And basically what happens is when you take that CD to the checkout counter and they take that and swipe it over the scanner, it is frying that circuit so that when you walk out with that CD, the alarm won't go off. Now, the only thing that alarm system knows is there a circuit in proximity or no? It doesn't know what the item is. So over the course of the development of RFID, from that EAS technology to now what you call Class 1 Gen 2 RFID, passive RFID, which is what everyone's nomenclature generally runs to right away, that has it has a lot more data that's associated with that. So as something is taken out, like I said earlier, you know exactly which one item that is out of the whole bulk pack, not just if there's an item there or not an item. And again, the EAS technology was cheap, small, and user-friendly. The RFID technology that's available now for passive was much more bulkier, like your 1980 cell phones, expensive, bulky. And as the technology's been improved and more laws, Moore's law comes into play, where every 2 years the size of a microchip gets cut in half.
Shrinks big time.
Right. So this technology that holds more information is becoming readily available because the cost is lower, the performance is better, and that's allowing, again, more granular information, which is what supply chain absolutely needs to understand, is that granular information.
I got you. All right. So now that we know some general concepts of it, specifically speaking, in the U.S. supply chain and logistics space, what are those next steps? Like, what specific pieces of tech do you see out of the RFID world, helping us make some leap forward here in the U.S. in our experience?
Right. Well, certainly the biggest thing that's helped is the knowledge of computer chip manufacturing, and the ability to use better antennas, understand your environment, transmit radio waves through things that maybe you used to not be able to transmit them through. Mm-hmm. So in terms of the U.S. supply chain, the passive RFID right now is number one. You're getting a lot of retail companies to come on board, which is allowing large production scales of these in the United supply chain. Other options are Bluetooth, low energy, everyone's familiar with Bluetooth. It operates on the gigahertz band, which is still considered radio frequency, but approaching microwave frequency. And radio frequency is not harmful to the human. That's why everything that we use for communication is on the radio band.
Right.
The Bluetooth low energy is when you Bluetooth your phone to a music player, you can only have that one Bluetooth connection. Bluetooth low energy is a little bit different in the fact that you can have one device connecting to a whole bunch of different nodes. So there's a lot of benefit there, but it is still kind of in development. It's still kind of that 2000 RFID, passive RFID phase where it's extremely expensive. We're still working out some kinks on connectivity. Right. Another up and coming solution is ultra wideband RFID. But again, this is not specifically passive. So depending on your asset type and what you're trying to move through your supply chain, you do have options of Bluetooth, ultra wideband, radio frequency, and then you can also get into GPS, things like that. But that's getting out of RFID.
Right. Okay, so kind of coming back again to the U.S., I've heard, I come from the manufacturing sector. My background's a lot of heavy industrial and stuff. And in my experience, the customers that I have gotten out there and worked with are way behind the times, to say the least. And so then when I hear this whole headlines about nearshoring, reshoring, now we're going to maybe bring manufacturing back to the U.S., I start to cringe a bit because most of these manufacturers lack the kind of key, what I see as key infrastructural pieces to make high-tech systems work. I mean, if they're going to adopt a system today, what are the fundamental tech components a company needs to have in place to adopt an RFID-based system?
Well, you talk about China and the supply chain, and this technology has really allowed the supply chains to become multinational, global through new technologies. I mean, even the barcode scan of being able to scan something here and scan something in the United States, that technology has allowed the supply chains to extend beyond international borders. Right. So with this technology, and especially the development of the cloud, an RFID system could be very easily implemented from, let's say, if you do have a supplier in China and they're shipping things to you, going back to that pallet type itemized thing, all you need are specific antennas and readers to be able to capture the data and then share the information in the cloud so that you know exactly what you got based on a license plate type application. So you're not going to know what that number means unless you have access to the database, because when you read an RFID number, it's just going to be a number. That's why everyone's really concerned about, can they get my information off my credit card and things like that. That's not the case. They're just going to get a number. You have to have access to the database in order to pull all the attribute row information.
Yeah, the way I've explained it to people, like with that number, you read an RFID tag, and a lot of them aren't encrypted. So you can interrogate a tag and read it from using almost any kind of reader. But once you read the tag, it just spits you back this completely random, seemingly random digit of numbers. But if that goes to the right cloud-based system, I explain it as like a data key that unlocks a box that's full of all sorts of cool attributes about an item and a material and where it's been and documentation. And maybe even like a blockchain trail.
Just like a cop looking at a license plate, a police officer looking at a license plate. He does not know who's driving the car, what kind of car it is or anything. I mean, he can tell, but once he types that license plate into the system, it's going to tell him this is supposed to be a blue Mustang and the registered driver is this person. So obviously if it's not a blue Mustang, then he knows it, he's got something to work with. But going back to the China supply chain and maybe even moving some things over here, RFID tagging can be done anywhere. And so if you have a manufacturing spot in California and your warehouse spot and retail spot, your biggest customers in Maine, again, moving all that information and tracking the visibility in the supply chain with RFID is extremely easy. You just need a couple of interrogators, which are the antennas shooting the information that are always listening, and you need an internet connection to a database that stores that stuff.
Yeah, a cloud-based system to house and store all the information.
Correct. So some pharma companies some high-tech companies will use a database, a non-cloud database, just because of security features.
I got you. But in general, you're saying I shouldn't be so worried. I mean, if the U.S. infrastructure, if I go to a manufacturing facility and they're really out of date, no big deal. As long as we have a third-party solution or an RFID integrator that's come up with a third-party solution, it's almost plug and play anymore because of the cloud mixed with the RFID tech. Boom, you're up and running in a matter of weeks or months, even if you're years behind on the infrastructural piece, right?
Absolutely. You can get started with the system at your location for, anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000, which is a very, very small investment to trial out of potentially,
Right.
a very large savings opportunity.
Right. And those large scale adoptions we're seeing in retail are going to continue to drive down the price of the tags and interrogators and the whole system.
Absolutely.
So that's all good news for us. All right. So last bit, and we'll wrap it up with this. What's on the horizon for RFID? I mean, it's a technology that's been around a long time. It's gone through a lot of evolution. What is next? What can we expect from the RFID tech world?
So piggybacking on what you just said, with the retail adoption through Macy's, Target, Walmart, you're seeing the cost of it all driven down, which is allowing a lot of smaller margin operations to investigate the use of RFID. So you're going to continue to see this passive non-battery RFID continue to explode over the next 10 years. Additionally, what that's allowing is it's allowing the Department of Defense to get a little bit more involved. Suppliers who run on small margins, supplying things to the Department of Defense, they've now started requiring that everything sent to the Defense Logistics Agency is tracked with an RFID, whether it's a pair of underwear, socks, or even a tank.
Yeah.
And what that's doing is that's allowing the DoD to automatically pay for what they receive. They know who they got it from. There's visual quality inspections done. So all these things that used to take a very long time with a lot of paperwork are becoming a lot shorter. Also, medical is becoming a huge user. For instance, anything taken to a surgical room, whether it's a sponge or a tool, is tracked when it enters the room and when it exits the room, so that they're saving patients' lives by not leaving medical equipment inside the body.
Nice. That's good.
Correct. And then also with the improvement of our RFID, you're getting a lot of RTLS, which is real-time location systems, which is almost like a smaller GPS phase inside of a warehouse. Because the performance is becoming so well, you can actually use 2 or 3 interrogators to triangulate a location and actually watch it move real time. Those systems require a little bit more development, a little bit more costly, but as this technology continue adopted, it's going to become less and less expensive.
Sweet. So you'd have like a localized mini map of what your assets are in some warehouse based on just a few fixed readers, all triangulating that passive tags movement around a facility.
Absolutely. And if you put it on a global scale, a global map, you might lose a little visibility because, again, it's passive.
Right.
Once it maybe across the ocean, but then you can throw in some of that GPS or even some high-range Bluetooth stuff to track that one individual boat. So you know that once these items were shipped from this dock, this boat has them, and then once they get to the location in America, you can have the RFID get that granular item level information of arrival.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be badass. Well, awesome, man. Hey, how can people who are interested in RFID reach you for all things RFID? I mean, you guys do a host of applications, and of course, you're well connected in the industry, but where would they start? How would they get a hold of you?
Yeah, if you guys would like to, you can find us online at www.starporttech.com. You can reach us on our main line at 816-891-9944, or you can always shoot me an email directly at sroth@starporttech.com. That's 2 T's in the middle.
Awesome. Well, hey, Sanders, thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for contributing to the Supply Chain TV and coming to us live from the front lines. Really appreciate it. And maybe we'll get you back on another episode as this tech develops quickly, it seems. So
awesome. Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, no problem.